And welcome, Hoosier fans, to another victorious episode of the Assembly Call. Why not? Didn't play a game, but we can call it victorious anyway. Another victorious episode of the Assembly Call, as today your Indiana Hoosiers completed yet another edition of Hoosier Hysteria. And we are here with our annual Hoosier Hysteria show.
Practice? Talking about practice?
That's right. We are going to talk about practice today. We're going to overreact to things we saw at practice. And generally just have some fun talking about basketball again. You know, I tweeted this out earlier today. It's like two things can be true at the exact same time. One, nothing really that we saw today from a basketball perspective means anything. And two, it was awesome to see some basketball stuff because basketball is back in Assembly Hall. Fans were in the building. And so it's still fun. And, you know, this was the introduction of the Mike Woodson era. And, you know, so to me, as we begin this show with our Hoosier Proud banner moment, for me, it's when Mike Woodson was introduced and took the microphone and said, "It's good to be back home," and said, you know, "We will," what was his exact quote? It was something like, "We will get back," or "We will get this thing done." Talking about, you know, getting Indiana back on top, and just seeing Mike Woodson and just kind of his control of the room, his control of the moment was awesome. As you might be able to tell in the background, my son, not quite as excited about it as I was. This is the new era of the Assembly Call where when my wife leaves, she takes my daughter with her, but she leaves my son. So with that said, I'm going to go grab my son. And let's turn it over to Coach for your thoughts on today's Hoosier Hysteria. Coach, you were in the building, and we know your previous thoughts on Hoosier Hysteria.
I don't like Hoosier Hysteria.
What'd you think about it actually being there?
It serves a purpose to introduce the new program with the new coaches and the new players, and for us fans to have a chance to see this new ball club. And I'm going to start using that word, ball club. I kind of like that from Coach Woodson. So, it was good. And it serves a purpose for the recruits being here, for fans who don't normally get in Assembly Hall. And the main purpose is we have basketball back. And that's it's so exciting. It's great to be here. The one thing with media credentials, you're supposed to not cheer. It was really hard for me to sit here quietly, and I caught myself going to clap a couple times, and I maintained the decorum that needs to be as a member of the media. But it was exciting to be here and hear the music and hear the balls bouncing on the court. So overall, a really good afternoon of Hoosier basketball. Jeff, let's go. Well, let's go. Chad unmuted first. You hit the button first, and then we'll throw it to Ryan.
It's exciting to see them come out and everything like that. Obviously, like has been said many times, we're not going to hear anything new or see anything new. The biggest thing that I was excited for coming out to this is both to see Coach Woodson come out for the first time, and then also the introduction that I was hoping they would say, welcoming home Coach Dane Fife back to Assembly Hall. That was exciting to see. And for those that didn't catch it, I know most of you guys did that are here on this show. A good fan, a friend of the show, made his debut as, maybe we should say, the voice of Hoosier Hysteria. Galen Clavio, there in that intro video, his voice very noticeable to see. But again, not many things you're going to see. A little bit of a bummer we didn't get to see the scrimmage. Bummer that they were shorthanded, as Coach said, and we couldn't see them playing. But we got to see some warm-ups. I got to see a few shots going up. And everything. So again, Hoosier Hysteria is in there. That just means we're that much closer to basketball, guys. It's very exciting. So Jeff, go ahead and take over next.
Well, I'm gonna send it to Ryan here first because I want to make sure he has his rant about the coverage a little bit.
I thought we weren't letting Ryan talk because he's been bad-mouthing Hoosier Hysteria. Why is he even here?
I'm just encouraging Ryan to make sure he has a take because he doesn't state much from what I hear.
Apparently we got
more on point.
Yeah, we got an email this week that somebody complaining that I didn't state my opinion enough. I don't know if there are any fans out there that agree with that take, but it's pretty hilarious as far as I'm concerned. I will say that and this happens every year with Hoosier Hysteria. They need to get a little better with the camera angles and the presentation of it a little bit. I've seen the ones for other programs and they're a little more high tech. I like during the 3-point contest, I have no idea who made what or who did what because they were zoomed in on the people's chests. And so you could see their shooting form, which is nice for me, but I don't know if anything went in. So
have you seen our percentages? That might have been strategic.
Yeah. It might have been just
was
saving
going in.
saving people a trip to get more Zoloft. But I think that yeah, they need to beef that up a little, I think. And I know they like having a student production and having it involved, but I think they need to be a little better prepared for it. That's my criticism. That said, I agree with what everyone's saying that Mike Woodson coming out in his intro, and you could tell he was emotional a little bit about it. And also the speech by Isaiah Thomas, I think was a highlight, highlighting Mike Woodson. I thought that was a smart way to do it, is have someone who knows Mike Woodson intimately sort of introduce him to the fans. Because let's face it, most of these people in the stands, a lot of these students have no idea of Mike Woodson's legacy in Indiana. They can read it in the paper, but you hear it from somebody who was there going through the battles with him. It has more of an impact. And I'll also say I have enjoyed the continued incorporation of the women's team in with the men's team and making this sort of a co-event. That did not used to be the case. If anybody remembers the old Midnight Madness and the early days of Hoosier Hysteria and across college football or college basketball, that's not the case. So I think that is excellent and very much a nice thing for the women's team too, to be recognized, especially coming off of such a great season last year.
Yeah. One
Coach
point I'll make
Marlowe?
about that, given the recent success of the women's team, isn't it more like they're sharing the stage with the men's team right now? Considering we haven't made an NCAA tournament in 5 years. So I'm just happy they let us continue to be at Hoosier Hysteria.
Hey, Coach Marlowe, I think besides what did you like besides those drills that you and I used to run all the time, the 3-man weave and those passing drills were something like we started 25 years ago.
Hey, before I answer that, though, Coach, I wanted to ask Ryan if he was doing like a Carlton dance earlier today when San Diego announced that Tingler was out.
Yeah, that was a good moment. I don't like seeing anybody lose their job, honestly, but I think the move that had to be made, we'll say. But yeah,
based on your Twitter feed. But anyway,
yes.
Coach, I really did enjoy watching some of the drill work. And somebody posted on Twitter, I think you can get an idea of what the offense will look like when you saw the 4-man stuff when they were going up and down the floor, and everybody was kind of getting and that was kind of one of my favorite things toward the end of my career, was doing a lot of 4 and 5-man stuff where everybody got a shot down, 4 or 5 trips down the floor. So I really liked that. I loved the Hoosiers video with Woodson at the beginning where he was driving in the car. I thought it would have been perfect if he would have opened the door and Terry Morin would have been doing like the Barbara Hershey character. You're the new coach. I was kind of waiting for that, but I really was fired up. You guys know I'm the president of the Zeke fan club here in the community. So, Isaiah had me ready to walk to Bloomington with his quote, stand up, show out. That made
They need to play that at the start of every game. That should be on the big screen at the start of every game.
And Jared, I saw your tweet about that. I totally agree. And then the last thing I wanted to show a little bit, he was talking about Mike Woodson's last game. I think he started talking about his last game in Assembly Hall. That game is actually on YouTube. If any of our fan base wants to go watch that game, all you got to do is Google. It's against Ohio State. Now, the Purdue game, I'm not interested in watching, but that Ohio State game is for the Big Ten title overtime game in 1980. So, but I really like Zeke, and I like some of the things I saw. I was not a big fan of the dunk contest because I'm just like you, Coach. I'm kind of cringing. Hopefully nobody gets hurt, and we got through that with nobody getting hurt.
So, again, I know that we don't want to have any basketball takeaways from this, and there wasn't even a scrimmage. But I'm just curious, especially from Coach, since he was there, and then as you guys were watching, if there was anything that you took away from a basketball standpoint. The only thing for me that I took away is we haven't gotten to see a lot of Parker Stewart. We've gotten to watch some of the highlights of him, when he played at Pitt, when he played at Tennessee Martin. And so we've seen him be a guy who can make shots at Tennessee Martin, be a guy who was basically the do-everything player offensively. But seeing him in an Indiana uniform, on a team with guys whose shot forms we've questioned over the last few years, he's got a beautiful shot form. Quiet body, his feet are good. He's got great wrist action on his shot. And, again, we weren't able to see all the numbers, but I guess someone posted here in the chat that he went 17 for 25 on a second turn. And it makes sense. He's got the look of a shooter and a shot maker. And so, again, you don't want to put too much into it, but that was my one basketball takeaway is we're looking for shooters. That guy's a shooter. Now, if he's going to make them come season, is he going to be rusty with the year off? Like, there's still a lot of questions about him. But just seeing a guy shoot like that in an Indiana uniform, look that fluid from a form standpoint, was really encouraging for me to see. Coach, what'd you see being there live?
I would second that about Parker Stewart. I thought his shot was really smooth. Xavier's hitch is real when here live. It really is. And, he's going to be able to hit a couple, but you can't count on him. I don't think he's going to be that downhill guy, that bulldog type of guy. But that basketball, you didn't see a whole lot of basketball. Coach Marlowe mentioned the 4-on-0, the 5-on-0 multiple trips shows you a little bit of, he was calling away and he wants that away pin screen down to the corner. So there's some concepts on the break that you can pick up from that basic drill work. But the other thing was I liked watching the interaction between the coaches and the players. And it started in some of the walk-up stuff when Coach Woodson walks out and the head coach is starting to bounce and sway back and forth. And I looked at the bench and they're all back and swaying with their coach. And it's early, but again, if there's a feeling of, okay, he's honest and we've heard all the talk, and now you kind of see it, that there just seemed like there was a little bit of a vibe. And Coach Yah, same thing. When Coach Yah came out and was doing a little running man, slow motion running man, and the whole team was doing that again, that whole relaxed feeling that we have all been talking about, I got that sense from looking around the bigger picture that, and that's going to play out in basketball. You hope in players playing better.
Well, and Coach, it's not just kind of looking like they're on the same page, kind of having fun. I thought it was interesting when Miller Kopp was interviewed. They were asking him about practices, right? And he said, practices, we've had a lot of effort and a lot of urgency, right? And you remember what Mike Woodson said in that video that they posted?
We got to do things with urgency.
It's always one of those things I look for, like if you see players in their comments and they're kind of echoing the messaging of the coaches, that it's sinking in a little bit. Now, you would expect that. It's preseason. No games have been lost. No playing time has been divvied up in a way that players don't like, all of that stuff. But I still like hearing players on message with their coach just seem to be in tune. Ryan, you wanted to say something about Parker Stewart.
Oh, I think that he just looks very confident and smooth out there. And hey, there's a reason why he was playing so much in the Bahamas. They've seen him and they've decided they need that. And he didn't shoot it well in the Bahamas, but he looks confident every time he rises up. So, I think it's certainly, I think you're right, Coach and Jared, both that the shooting form on him is excellent. It doesn't shock me as he's being the son of a coach that he is technically has a really good shot. He does look a little streaky, I think, from watching, from understanding what happened. I obviously couldn't see it, but what happened in that 3-point contest. And also I want to say that a 3-point contest is not an indication of how good a shooter you are. It's an indication of how good you are at the 3-point contest, really, because very rarely are you going to be picking a ball up, setting yourself and shooting. I mean, that's just, and there are people with shots that are conducive to that. And there are people with shots that are not conducive to doing that. So, but that said, I think that's the guy you're going to look at as potentially our best shooter. And he showed out today. And so that's certainly a positive from a basketball perspective that I took. Also, I thought Logan Duncan was moving really well. I think that was another thing I noticed. Yeah. I just thought he was moving well. You can't take much away from this, but I just thought that his feet were surprisingly quick and he was getting up and down the floor pretty well. And I know he's been, hampered with a shoulder injury, but it looked like he was pretty much full go.
Coach Marlowe or Chad, do you guys have any other half-baked basketball takes from a very short practice?
Just one of the excitement things, one of the big things that came out of media day was talking about Race Thompson. And Ryan, I know you were happy when you watched and saw this too. Him being in the skills challenge, it was great to see him going up and down the floor,
moving really well.
Yeah, making his free throw and then nailing his first shot. So again, he looks like he has his confidence in his game and that part of his game to deliver and still use those assets. And he's not scared. And we know now that he's got a head coach that's cheering him on to do those types of things. So while it's jumping to conclusions because it's just a skills challenge in Hoosier Hysteria, he's using those things that we know he can do and will just translate to better things for the team this year.
Hey, much better that he made the 3 than missed it. Now we can hang on to that as we dream about stretch 4 Race Thompson in the offseason. Mm-hmm. That's what this event is for.
Was that his Jeremiah April moment?
Don't even put those two in the same sentence. Come on, don't you disparage Race Thompson like that. Coach Marlowe, any other basketball takes?
Yeah, I guess maybe I don't want to be the negative person, but I would have really like to be able to see a Kopp a Miller Kopp, a Lander, some of the guys that were held out today. And I understand why guys get held out. It would have been nice to see Miller Kopp in a 3-point contest. And I agree, whoever said it's just 3-point contest. That doesn't mean you're going to shoot it at a high percentage during the year. But I think Kopp has the ability to come out and hit 35, 40% of his threes this year, if not better. He's shown he can. I just would have liked to seen that today. But I understand why guys were held out. It was a little concerning to me. I know it's still 5.5 weeks till the first game, but I never like seeing a kid in a boot. I know they'll always say precautionary, but to me, I don't like seeing a kid in a boot.
Coach, I'm curious. I think the most important element of Hoosier Hysteria, it's a fan event. It's for fans to be there, feel some hype. It's for recruits. What was the energy like in the building? Like, give us kind of an attendance report, an energy report, that kind of stuff.
It looked like we'd all been off for 2 years, to be honest with you. Like we got to relearn how to be in Assembly Hall. It was a late arriving crowd. It filled in nicely about up to the entryways. The middle sections all the way up to the entryways were full. The edges of the main concourse, there were wide open seats in the front 2 rows. So I would say the crowd was less than what I expected, especially in Coach Woodson's first year. But it's been raining here like crazy, and people might have thought they had to wait in line, that they didn't want to do that. And in previous years, if you didn't get in line early, you might have been up in the rafters, or I know at some years they were even turned away. So people might have said, let's just stream it or do something else. So there might have been some reasons for that, but it was a little disappointing that there weren't more people here for Coach Woodson's first appearance, to be honest. And then it was just a slow go. But when the t-shirt cannons come out and the cheerleaders were, riling up the crowd, it seemed like Assembly Hall of old, and the people who were here were really good and loud and had fun. And so that's ultimately what it was. But it did hit me that we all have to figure out how being in an arena again and the mask thing and all of that stuff that was required, maybe that had something to do with it. But it ended up being that was my thought early, and then it just escaped me until you really asked that question, because it felt like being back here watching basketball again.
And maybe it's a little bit of a reality check that, I think some of us, who were, content creators, podcasters, we're on Twitter, we live in a bit of a bubble when it comes to Indiana basketball. And we're all really excited about Mike Woodson being the coach and about some of the new players and about all of this stuff. But the reality is this team hasn't played an NCAA tournament in half a decade. And so maybe this is a little bit of a reality check. Then it's just going to take a little bit more to get the average fan or the casual fan hyped up than just bringing in, Mike Woodson, a bona fide legend in the history of IU basketball, but still, a guy who didn't have a big profile among college basketball fans, prior to this. It's going to take some winning still, and I think you've got, Ryan, the core folks like us fired up, not necessarily fired up from the sense of Indiana's going to win the Big Ten, but fired up from this is going to be fresh. The basketball is going to look different. The roster is a little bit more conducive to playing the modern game, like a lot of reasons to be optimistic, but it's probably going to take the casual fans actually seeing some results to maybe, fully come back.
Well, I mean, let's be real. When, a lot of the fans who are, the target demographic right now have no idea who Mike Woodson is. And I mentioned that in the open. They've probably heard the name and they know he played at IU, but they don't know anything about him. This isn't, you didn't bring in a multi-time national championship winning coach who's the top recruiter in the country and is flashy and all this stuff. You brought in a very solid basketball coach. And will it work? I mean, boy, do I hope so. And do I think that there have been a lot of positive signs early? Of course, but incremental positive signs don't excite people. What excites people are big splashes. And so, I think it's going to take time to get people back. And you know what gets people back? Wins. That's what they have to do. They have to win to bring the fan base back. And it's also, post-COVID world where people aren't just going to rush down and go to an arena for a couple hours and wait outside in the rain to get into an arena at the same level they would have, 5 years ago. So I think that also it being, a little later on a Saturday maybe took some of the families out of it. And so there's a lot of factors of why it probably wasn't that well attended. But at the same time, you got to win. I mean, remember where we were last year when before Archie Miller got let go. It was apathy, complete apathy from the fan base. And that doesn't come back just because you bring a guy back who scored 2,000 points at Indiana. It comes back by winning and by creating a buzz and being relevant again. And so that's a slow, long process. I do not envy Mike Woodson and the coaches who are going to do this, but yeah, it's going to take time to earn that trust back and to earn that excitement back.
So let's go around the horn here with just some other observations. One observation that I want to make is that I loved that, and I'm curious to get coaches' thoughts on this. I love that the coaches came out in the candy stripes and the traditional warm-ups. Like it was a little bit jarring to see, but I thought it was awesome. Especially since, Mike Woodson obviously is, one of the guys who's done the most in those warm-ups. It was also funny because my wife wasn't watching. She was up with my son. He was sleeping. She got him up. So she comes downstairs. And the first things that she saw was Dane Fife walking out with the candy stripes in the warm-up. And she thought it was a player. And she goes, "Oh, my God, who the hell is that?"
Dane doesn't look like a player these days.
I know. So she was a little taken aback by that. But I thought that look was just great. And Kenya coming out and ripping his candy stripes off. Like there was just – and I also liked, again, it's a small thing, but Woodson coming out to Big Papa and kind of leaning into the meme, the shirt with Mike Woodson. And I think that to me was an interesting metaphor for where this program is, which is acknowledging the past, actually not acknowledging, fully embracing the past, but also leaning into the future. And there's a meme about Coach Woodson. Let's play the song, and this wouldn't be the song that he's choosing, but it's kind of a cool thing to do. And so, I do agree. I think there's a lot of room for improvement just from let's freshen this thing up. Let's do some more from a production entertainment standpoint. But I thought that moment in particular was a good sign of what the program needs to do, which is embrace the past, but move in to this meme-filled future that we now live in, because memes are how you get attention and how you steal the focus for a couple of hours. And that's about as long as anyone's attention span is these days. So I thought that was a good moment. Any other just observations from the day?
Well,
Chad, why don't we start with you, or Coach, go ahead.
I'll just go quick. I think the candy stripes was great. And I'm all about seriousness and not popping your collar and doing all that stuff. And I mean that. You go to play the game between the lines, but outside the lines and in events like this, you got to have some fun. And the coaches coming out in the candy stripes, it was solid. But even better than that was Isaiah in the candy stripes. If that didn't just bring back just goosebumps for this old man.
You think they gave him a pair, or do you think he's got his old pair and he just brings
he's
it
probably
with him
got
everywhere?
millions of pairs. Yeah, he has one wherever he goes, right?
He probably would. Hey, Isaiah, we're gonna put you in candy stripes. Well, I brought mine. I bring them everywhere. They're in my suitcase, top of the suitcase.
That whole thing again showed the vibe between the program, and if that means better basketball, X's and O's, and better results, then that's great. But the family atmosphere, the tradition is back. And I think I texted you guys. I said, I really wasn't one of those guys who wanted an IU coach back. I just wanted the best coach. But, man, it feels cool. This is really cool to see these old players back in their candy stripes now leading. So I think that matters.
This is a great day for Mike Woodson and his family.
Yeah, I'll continue with that. Just saying the Isaiah stuff and everything, and seeing Isaiah also breaking down and getting emotional to a point too. That was really cool to see.
Woodson clearly got emotional too. Before he started talking. I mean, both.
And it just shows that's kind of shows that how emotional a lot of us fans, like you said, that are really paying attention, and the ex-players. That's a relief cry. That's a relief emotion and an excitement emotion that came out of him in that moment. So that was really fun to see and everything. And then how about the fact that we've got a fantastic dunker as a walk-on too? A special shout out to Childress for making a pretty fantastic dunk and doing pretty well in the dunk contest as well. So yeah, I liked all of those moments. But yeah, the emotion that you saw was an additional takeaway for me.
Also, we have a San Diego guy, Ryan. How excited are you?
Yeah, I know nothing about him because it was a shock. I'll have to do some research. Hopefully, he didn't go to one of my rival high schools like another former Hoosier who was there for a year. But Yeah. Hey, gotta love the San Diego. There has never been a bad time to connect San Diego and Indiana. I've always said it. I think it's just
By
like
the way, the only other-
just like USC transfers to Indiana. Always works out. Always works out.
One other observation while we're on the topic of the candy stripes. Obviously, we all love the candy stripe pants. I'm not a fan of the candy stripe shorts. Candy stripes, they need to be full length. It just doesn't look right to me in a short.
I'm wearing a pair of candy stripe shorts right now.
Yeah,
I
you're
like shorts.
engaged
Can we
now.
wear-
You can
can
do
we wear
that.
them
You
in the
can look
game?
ridiculous.
Don't show us. No, don't show us.
No.
I like the shorts
I'm-
too. I'm sorry. I'm with you, Ryan. I
like
like
the
the shorts.
We need to put this to
Can
a
we
vote. Candy stripes
wear-
need to be full length in pants. It looks weird in shorts.
Shorts and in a game.
Shorts are fine.
Ooh,
No,
absolutely
no.
wow. That just
No.
Okay,
just
we need-
doubled the gauntlet there.
All right, chat mob, you got to settle this. Yes to the candy stripe shorts or no? I thought those warm-up shirts were awesome. And I love the fact that, at Indiana, whenever you see the team wearing some cool apparel, you're going to get access to it. So I'm kidding. We don't get access to anything.
Unfortunately.
Ryan says yes. Okay, Valerie says no. And Valerie is really the arbiter. She's the one who
Joel.
decides.
We got Joel.
Yes.
Good old Joel
Joel.
saying yes.
Okay,
Like
now
Joel.
imagine Joel,
Joel
wearing
said
the
yes.
candy stripe shorts.
Joel
Ari
Joel-
says he's indifferent
Ari
to the
says-
candy strips.
By
Joel
the way,
was agreeable, which means he buys me a beer later tonight.
Sean Burke
Hey.
went to Vista High School in San Diego, which is, it's a decent spot. It's a good spot. It's not a rival. I'm good with it.
What? How about my favorite was the women's coaches with their Elite Eight shirts.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was a
Like
great
those-
flex.
Yep.
That was great. So let's talk a little bit about the women's team. Because look, I mean, they're returning. Did they lose any key players off last year's team? Who'd they lose?
I don't think so.
Allie's back, Grace is back, Mackenzie's back, Nicole, Alexa. Yeah, I mean, they're all back. So, I don't, maybe someone in the chat can chime in with newcomers that they have, but I mean, they've got the core group from a team that went to the Elite Eight.
It's
That was
everybody's
so
back.
Yeah, and was so fun to watch. And I love the fact that they came out with their Elite Eight shirts. That's great. They should be approaching this season now from a point of confidence. They're not going to kind of sneak up on anybody anymore. And as we're seeing from the football team, it can be a little bit of a different thing, but they entered last season with a lot of expectations and they did great with them. So, I can't wait to watch them. I thought Allie Patberg's speech was great. She kind of gritted it out through a hoarse voice, but, no one grits things out like Allie Patberg, so we knew she would. But I have high hopes for them. Grace Berger played for Team USA during the off season. That's a great experience for her. So, I mean, what do we think about their chances to improve? Because sometimes you get everybody back, but that just means that you're, if you a little bit overachieved last year, then maybe you're the same or you fall back. Do we feel like they have a ceiling to get even better this year? I do. I mean, I feel like someone like Grace Berger has another level that she can go to, and be, increase her scoring average. Mackenzie Holmes seems like she can get even more dominant. So
They
I
need
think
to be
they can
able
get
to-
even better.
From what I watched, and I'll admit I didn't watch all of their games, but from the stuff I watched, they need to be able to knock down threes. That was what escaped them in the tournament, and that was what really
Sounds familiar.
ultimately cost them in the Elite Eight. They need to be able to consistently knock down some shots. And yes, it does spread to both men's and women's programs. But that to be able to consistently knock down shots, I think would be something, because here's the thing, when they ran into a team in Arizona that made their shots, they really struggled to keep up with them. And they made a comeback in that game and everything, but I really think that they need to be able to consistently hit their threes and have that consistent offense working, because they look really good. They looked really good defensively when I watched them. They look like they scored inside pretty easily, but you need to be able to diversify what you're doing, or as we've talked about with the men's team, they'll just pack the paint and force you to keep shooting.
I think they'll still be really, really solid and a danger, but your runs in the NCAA tournament all depend on the draw and your matchups, and you can run into a buzzsaw in the Sweet 16 or in round 2 or whatever. We hope it'd be nice to advance past the Elite Eight for the women, and they're just in good hands. The program, the attendance down here is really good, so looking forward to watching them play this season.
Well, you get a senior leader, a senior skills leader and stuff, someone that takes advantage of that COVID year and comes back. I mean, that's going to ignite some fire on the team and everything. And then they're hungry now. I mean, you get so close and everything, And they admitted, as she said during her speech, yeah, we lost that last game. We lost it. But they're hungry to get back, and they're driven and everything. And that's going to help propel them forward, and should be a good year for them. It's exciting. We need to get out and support them.
Yeah, I think it's one of those where can you live up to the expectations? I mean, I know they had some expectations coming into last year, but nowhere near that idea of going to an Elite Eight, possibly a Final Four. And I love Allie, and I think Mackenzie's a great inside player. To me, the kid that's going to kind of be the make or break for him is Golby. Alexa is a kid that can go inside, outside, and she has the ability to stretch defense with the three ball. And she kind of struggled in the NCAA tournament with her shot. If she gets hot or can be more consistent, they've got a chance to be really, really good. In the league, they're going to still find a way to beat them, Maryland, somebody, to get to the top of the league. But they've got a chance, and I like the makeup, and I love Terry Moore and come out to small town, by the way.
Yes. I mean, she's a girl from Seymour. What else is she going to come out to? It's perfect. Okay. Any other observations from Hoosier Hysteria? Coach and Coach Marlowe, I'm especially curious. I know obviously we didn't get to see the scrimmage, but we got to see some of the ups and downs, some of the drills. If you guys want to go real like hardcore nerd coaching and give the rest of us some insight on anything that we can take from that we haven't talked about yet, this would be the time to do it. And I think we'd all be interested to know how you watch that stuff, because it's not a scrimmage, but it's practice. It's some of the drills and some of the stuff they do. What do you take from that stuff?
For me, I look at the actions that they're running, and basically those drills were early offense actions, and they had a little back screen for the guard when he entered it to the wing, and they go away for a stagger double into what we call an empty ball screen action on the wing. So that's something we're going to see. A lot of those actions were to get those guards downhill and then play through the post after trying to go downhill. The thing I saw Coach Marlowe in those 5-on-0s is that they do a good job. I think Woodson does a nice job of moving his perimeters. I saw this in the Bahamas. They lift off the baseline and try to get away from help as the guards drive downhill. And even in the Bahamas, they would do some what we call Xing or looping off the baseline action, or floppy action is what someone calls that at times. And you can pick up some of that in these 5-on-0s, and that's probably the basic action. But I really liked it when Coach Woodson, they had him mic'd here in the arena, and he said away. So there's going to be concepts when they're on the fly that he's going to yell to the point guards, the action as he finds an advantage, or maybe coming out of the timeout, we're going to run away in transition now, or we're going to run UCLA in transition now. And it's a lot of flexibility, and I just think there's a lot more to Coach Woodson's offense than just what he runs in 5-on-0. But it is going to be pace. It is going to be getting guards to make plays, either assist or at the rim scoring. It is going to be multiple ways to get the ball in the post. It's refreshing.
I will say some of that coach probably had a little better view of it being there, because some of the camera coverage wasn't the best. And I'm not trying to complain too much about the coverage. It's just what it is.
I did that already. You're good, Coach.
What I liked is I've just been a believer, and kind of the last couple of years of my coaching, we really tried to get shooters in the corner. And like Coach was talking about, you can lift them out of the corner, but you got to get them to the corner to begin with. And that stretches the defense, because if you help too much, you kick it to the corner, you hit the three. If you don't help, then somebody like Xavier Johnson or a Tamar Bates is going to get downhill and get to the rim, or draw other help, and then TJD or somebody's going to be open at the rim. So I liked that. I did like the action, Coach, and I can't remember if it was on the 4-on-0 or the 5-on-0, where they did a little dribble handoff action with the big, and then kind of rolled out of that into an action at the rim. I think they even did one where it was a little bit more of a pick and pop, or no, I think it was more. I take it back. They were down screen, or what I used to call a long. We called it a horn set. It looked like it was a horn set where they were doing a wide pin down for the big to get an elbow jumper. Now, maybe I wasn't quite catching it all on the TV, but I kind of like that. I saw TJD taking an elbow jumper. I saw Jordan Drama. To me, those are what I want to see in practice, is them trying to stretch out the floor a little bit. Because I'm just a big believer that the game, especially at the college level, is moving away from the traditional back to the basket player. And I think you gotta space the floor, and you got to open the middle.
Coach, you saw it here. There's some roll and replace action, dribble at, backdoor into a ball screen, and then the opposite big lifts into a ball screen. They were doing some roll replace, and instead of popping up to the top, they would go pin down wide is probably the action that you saw, and then the big is in the corner. That's good. To me, that's good action. Obviously, you got to do it against defense. Everyone looks good 5-on-0. I mean, heck, I would look good 5-on-0 running offense, but
I would agree with that.
Some good stuff.
Yeah.
That you just think there's some good stuff, and it's different and it's modern, which we can all say our praises for.
And I know you don't do it. I know what I like, and I'm a kind of a defensive guy too. I mean, I love to shoot it, but as a coach, it was preach defense. I would have loved to have seen some of our
right.
I wish we could have got some scrimmage to see some of the defensive concepts. Coach, you've seen the Bahamas film. I haven't seen any of that. But I'm really excited to kind of watch our defensive principles under Coach Woodson.
Would any fan base enjoy a shell drill more at Hoosier Hysteria than
I would.
Yeah,
I would love
Give
it.
me shell.
Give me shell every day.
Just imagine
we
the
did it
recruits
every
looking
day.
at each other like, okay, cool shell
They
drill.
did do it. They did do a little bit of a fast break drill that we used to do. Kind of you go 3-on-0 down, and then the person in the middle would stay, and you come back with a couple. Again, some of the coverage on the TV I was having a hard time following with, but it looked like a drill similar to what we used to do. Kind of
It was a little old time basketball in here, Coach Marlowe. You would have loved it. That's why I got this big smile on my face.
By the way, Coach, I'm not sure if this is how it sounded in person, so I'm curious to get your thought. But we were kind of wondering before, what moment is going to get the loudest ovation. I'm pretty sure when Coach Woodson said Coach Knight, that was the loudest Assembly Hall got, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, and there were several moments, Jared, where the crowd really erupted. Coach Woodson, when he walked out, it was great to hear that ovation too. But yeah, Woodson knows how to get the crowd going. He's gonna mention Coach Knight almost every time, so that was solid.
Mm-hmm. So look, this is probably the last time we're gonna see anything until the first game, because Indiana's not playing any public exhibitions. They have 2 private scrimmages set up. One is against. Hang on, who are the scrimmages against? Well, I think they're playing Belmont for one. Cincinnati and Belmont, I think, is the other one.
Yep.
Well, it's been speculated. Coach Woodson said it's going to be in Louisville, so some people are speculating on Bellarmine, but I think it's going to be Belmont.
Yeah.
So the second one hasn't been confirmed, but Cincinnati.
No, it has not been confirmed. So usually all we get from those are box scores. So I'm curious, and Chad, we'll start with you. When you get the box scores for those exhibitions, we can't watch it, we can't see anything. But what's the first thing that your eyes are going to go to, just to see? What are you going to be the most curious about when you get those box scores?
I want to see Parker Stewart's numbers back up on the 3-point shot and everything. Again, from seeing them in the Bahamas and everything, I saw his defense a lot too. I'm actually going to looking at his stat line pretty closely. I want to see some more steals from him and overall on the team, because they were very aggressive with their on-ball defense in the Bahamas. So I'm going to be looking for that as well. And then just again to see how the minutes were delved out, who's playing the most, what kind of rotations we can maybe think that happened within that. What are the minutes compared with Xavier and Rob Fennessy, who's kind of sharing most of that load, and are we also seeing Christian pop in there as well? Those are the kind of things I think I'm going to be looking for in those box scores.
3-point shooting percentage. Number one, first thing I'm looking at.
Assist to turnover ratio.
Yeah. Coach Marlowe?
I'll agree with everybody so far. 3-point percentage, and I like Coach. I was going to say just turnovers, but assist to turnover ratio.
Yeah, I mean the 3-point percentage is obvious. 3-point free throws, we're always going to be looking to that. I think for me, there's a couple X factors on this team, and the one guy to me is Jordan Geronimo, who I think really has the potential to take a leap. And if you told me right now that come February, Jordan Geronimo is starting and in the rotation as one of the top 5 players, I would not be shocked by that. Just because he's got, I'm not saying I'm predicting it, but he's got the kind of athletic potential, the hustle, the effort, the attitude to where you could see him take a leap. And so I'm going to be curious to see, what does he do in the exhibition? Because if he's already kind of playing more minutes and being productive and being a guy who's getting you a lot of rebounds, I think that really bodes well for this team early, because I think he's the kind of guy that swings a Syracuse game or swings a St. John's game, against a better team coming off the bench. So I think he's important. Then I'll also be interested to see what Christian Lander does. Christian Lander obviously didn't, play much at all in the Bahamas, and he may not end up doing much this season, but he's got the kind of talent, again, that's kind of an X factor and could really kind of shake up the guard rotation. So by then, is he getting in? Is he getting more minutes and doing anything? I think those two guys, I think Indiana can win without either one of those guys playing a huge role. Although I think Geronimo is going to have to, be a somewhat reliable bench guy. But I think those are the two of the guys who can really kind of raise the ceiling for this team if they really take steps forward. So I'll just be curious to see, okay, here we are in the offseason. How much are they playing? What are they doing? Are there any other individuals that you guys are going to be especially curious to see?
For me, I think you hit it. Maybe just if Race, see some numbers on Race Thompson, see what if he's taking some shots from the outside as opposed to just playing in the post, as we've heard that he's moving around. But other than that, I think you hit the main guys that we're going to look at.
I think the other. Yeah, Parker Stewart. I think the other thing you're going to look for to see is I want to see Miller Kopp. I think he's going to eat up a lot of minutes this year, just from what I saw in the Bahamas. He's a leader. He's a real leader, and his 3-point shot making and everything is going to be huge for the team. And then again, his off the box score type of plays that he made in the Bahamas. We're going to see that a lot. The hustle plays, the rebounding. He even said that in the presser that he was going to be working on things like his defensive rebounding and things like that. So I think his minutes are going to climb and be higher as we go. Health, obviously, hopeful on that end.
I agree about Kopp. I really do think Kopp is going to be a major player for us this year. I really liked his game, and sometimes maybe you're just one of the better players on a team that's not as good. But I really like how Kopp fits into the scheme we have. I'm really interested in Tamar Bates, and I really enjoyed your interview, your segment with him, Jared. And for the rest of the people who haven't had a chance to listen to that, the inside scoop, I really enjoyed that. But he had a good Bahamas. Will he be able to do that as we start getting into more organized teams who are going to, scout, watch the video, and start taking away some things from him? I'll be interested, because to me, Tamar could also be a real X factor. He's the kind of kid that could really, be a kind of, I'm trying to think maybe one of you guys help me out. A freshman, an impact freshman that we weren't expecting per se, but just really came in as an impact freshman. And we were like, wow, really love that kid. And I can't think of somebody off the top of my head.
AJ Guyton would be one.
Yeah, that's a great one.
But Tamar has higher expectations. I mean, he was a borderline 4-star, 5-star guy, I guess. Like, I don't look at him as a X factor as much as a guy that really is going to need to play and that I think will play. Because I already think he's, probably one of the 3, 4, 5 most talented players on the team. Now he's going to have to adjust to the physicality and the mental part and all that. But I think he's got to play a big role on this team. But we'll see. He's a freshman, so you don't want to expect too much. All right, I think it's going to be time to close up here. Let's kick it to Ryan first for some closing thoughts. Ryan, did we do okay at extracting a meaningful conversation from a meaningless event? What do you think?
Sure. I think we did great, guys. We can all pat ourselves on the back. No, one thing to take away that nobody really mentioned is just having fans back. It's just we talked about the attendance, but just the vibe of having fans back in the arena is fantastic and is something
Coach mentioned that.
Well, I know, but we didn't really belabor the point. And I think that
that's what we do on the assembly call is we belabor points.
We do. We didn't really think about it. Think about how different it is this year from last year. I mean, just the general vibe of the season and the arena and all of that. I mean, it's going to play a huge factor in this season. It's going to play a huge factor moving forward for the program, is that home court advantage that has been missing. And I don't know. I just think that that's the big takeaway for me today is people are back. The team is going to get to, both teams, men's and women's, are going to get to play in front of fans. So for me, that was the big takeaway from today.
Absolutely. Okay. Before we do parting shots, IU Penn State starts soon. Let's go around. Is anyone feeling optimistic about tonight's game in Happy Valley? That's a lot of head shaking. Okay.
Nope.
Good. Maybe that's exactly what this football team needs, is everybody going back to doubting them and not believing, and then they can step up and surprise again.
I would love to be surprised.
Yes. Yeah, I'm kind of thinking somewhere between the Iowa and the Cincinnati game. I think Galen said it well on the preview podcast. Just don't lose it in the first quarter. I think they can kind of reinstill some confidence if they make it a 50-minute game, a 55-minute game. Be competitive up there. I think that's what they need to do. Any other football thoughts before we close up?
No, I think that might be their best performance tonight, and they still get beat by 11 to 14 points. I just think Penn State's that good.
I have one thought. Go Bearcats. That was awesome.
What'd the Bearcats do?
They beat Notre Dame.
They beat Notre Dame.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
I think if they play to their capabilities and limit the turnovers, which has been an issue, at least or up until the Western Kentucky game, I think it can be a one possession game. I said 28-24. That's my best case scenario. The other scenario for me is Penn State still ticked off about last year and they blow us out in the first quarter and it's never really a game.
By the way, one last observation. Tamar Bates sporting the wristband high up on his forearm, which is a nice look that we haven't seen. I've always loved that look from basketball players. We haven't seen that. I think, if I recall, didn't Will Sheehy do that a couple times? It was either that or it was tape. But I think we were talking about it on Twitter. I think Bracy Wright was the last guy to do it. Not that that's a great omen, although Bracy put up numbers but didn't have the most memorable career. But still, I think it's a good look for a basketball player. So happy to see how that works out for Tamar, who I think will be better than Bracy Wright. Okay, let's go around the horn. Final thoughts and the thing that you're the most. Look, this is Hoosier Hysteria. We're all about optimism and excitement right now. I'm sure the people who, are just thinking, show me come the season, they're probably not even listening to the show. So let's just indulge in a little bit of optimism and excitement. What's the thing that you're the most excited about for when the games start? Coach, you go first. Or Ryan, feel free to hang around if you want to do this too. Or
I'll wait.
Bounce if you need to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me go next.
I'm most excited about I'm most excited about the brand of basketball being exciting again. And I can't guarantee you that's going to be, a lot of wins or whatever number of wins. It's more enjoyable, and it's more enjoyable from an X and O standpoint. And Coach Woodson's just each and every day, the way he speaks is making us all happy about being IU fans again. So, but it's a new brand of basketball, and I think folks will like it, even if there's some struggles.
Ryan?
Most excited about seeing all the new guys and how they fit in. I think there's been a lot of turnover, and I think that we've been talking about these guys for so long. It kind of sometimes feels like we forget how many new guys. I mean, Parker Stewart never played last year. He's technically still a new guy, and then you got Xavier Johnson and Miller Kopp and Michael Durr when he's healthy, and Tamar, and I mean, Christian Lander's almost like a new guy because he didn't play much. I mean, there's so many guys who can impact this roster who we haven't really seen yet. So, I'm really interested to see how these new guys play in this new system and how it fits. And I'm also interested to see how I got stalwarts like Trace Jackson Davis and plays, and does he change his game a little bit? We haven't really seen much of a change in his game and over the years, and it appears they're trying to diversify that for him. And how does a guy like Rob Finney, who struggled so much with consistency for his entire career, so those all those things, just how these guys fit into a new system.
One thing you were given instructions. One thing. See, this
how
is what the YouTube commenter was talking about.
There it
He's
is.
Like, pick one. Don't just say everything. Pick
well,
one.
You know what? It's Hoosier Hysteria Day. I'm going my own. I'm going to go do my own thing, just like they didn't do a scrimmage. All right.
This is when you're going to choose to do your own thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right.
No, but my point was how everybody fits into this system. So that's my
Yes.
one thing, and it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. I'm out of here, guys.
Chad,
by the way, thank
from the
you.
scraps that Ryan left for the rest of us, what are you most excited?
Well,
about?
first, a special shout out to Jared's left arm for wrangling his son this whole time and everything. He's been a champ. He's fading fast there.
He's been awesome, hasn't he? He's been
He's
here for the
close.
entire episode.
He's close, and his great outfit too, well dressed for the occasion.
My wife had him dressed in a Texas A&M outfit. As soon as she left, I changed him.
Nice.
I knew he might end up making an appearance today. We're not going to let that happen.
Well done. Well done. Now, the thing that I'm most excited for this season, if anyone's listened to me on any of these post-game shows, or if they've listened to me do my show, Hoosier Morning After, the one thing I harked about this past season the most is this team didn't have a bulldog on the team. The team didn't have that bulldog player, didn't have that exciting player, that take charge kind of player, just the bulldog. What you'd explain, he's a bulldog. And I feel like we have that in a couple of players this year. And it's really exciting. Miller Kopp's definitely one. Xavier Johnson's going to be one. Tamar Bates is going to be one, and everything. And I'm really excited that we finally feel like we have those alpha dogs and those bulldogs on this team going into this year.
I see that the chat mob bully is calling me a podcast bully. Okay. I think Ryan can take it.
Real
Ryan
quick,
can handle it.
my Uber, my wife is out there waiting to go to dinner. So I'm going to say so long. Thanks, everyone, for following along. And just hold on till November 9th. It'll be great. We'll see you, everybody.
Here I come, Mrs. Stansoni.
Peace.
Perfect.
Tell her we said hi.
All right. We'll see you.
All right, Coach Marlowe.
I'll kind of piggyback off of Chad a little bit and then maybe go a plus on that. I really want to see an alpha. He calls it the bulldog. I call it, but I want to see an alpha. I want to see that person say, "Give me the ball. I'm going to make a play, whether I'm scoring or creating for somebody." And I think that also comes back to leadership. I just felt like the last 2-3 years, there's been no leader, at least out on the floor that I see. I don't see that person. I don't want to say grabbing somebody by a shirt, but you all know what I mean. Just, who's going to be like, listen, this is what we're doing. And to me, and I know I'm biased, but you had one of the greatest leaders in basketball history talking to those guys today. When he talked to those guys and said, "You will graduate." I left early and I got the piece of paper. You will come back. That's what it means to be an IU player. I know that's easier said than done, but I need to see that. I want somebody who will be that leader. The stories of how he would look at, he wouldn't necessarily talk back to Knight, but when Knight was not there, he'd look at those guys and be like, "Forget him. He's not, you guys we're not that bad." I want somebody in that locker room and on the floor who's a leader, who's an alpha, who's a bulldog. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, for me, I think the one guy that we haven't talked about a lot today is Trace Jackson Davis. And, I'm really excited to see how he grows and develops this year. Do we see his game expand? Do we see him taking more shots? Do we see him showing more elements to his offensive game? Do we see him stepping up more as a leader? All of those things. Because, look, Trace hasn't had a lot of team success, obviously. But the kind of numbers that he's put up through his freshman and sophomore season, he now has a chance as he enters his upperclassman years. If the team can produce and do some good things, he's got a chance to start writing his name along some pretty big company, because not a lot of guys have done what he's done over the first 2 years. And you can make the argument that, on a good Indiana team, he wouldn't have gotten so many opportunities and he was being force-fed and blah, blah, blah. All that is perhaps true, but at the end of the day, Trace was the one playing on those teams and producing without a whole lot of help around him. And I think the fact that he came back really helped to legitimize what Mike Woodson and Thad Matta and Dane Fife and Kenya Hunter and all those guys are doing, and ensured that this team enters this season with a clear leader and an All-American that they can build around. And so it's so easy after a couple of years to take a guy like Trace for granted and talk about how important it is for the young guys and the new guys and all these other guys to step up, and they do. But at the end of the day, Trace has to be an All-American, maybe a first-team All-American for this team to really compete in the Big Ten and fulfill the potential that, some of us think that this team has. And so I'm really going to be excited to see just if there's a different pep in his step, a different joy to the way that he plays, a different consistency to the way that he attacks games. Because it sure felt at times last year like he just had the weight of the world on his shoulders and that he just wasn't enjoying as much the role of being Indiana's leader. And I would love to see him get to the point where that is the case again. And so I'm going to be really excited to see that. But let's close up here. And all I want to say is closing. I see a tweet here from Zach Osterman with a picture at the Buzzkirk Chumley Theater celebrating the life of Jason Kennedy. And Jason Kennedy obviously passed away unexpectedly last year. They did a celebration of life for him today. And, boy, is there anybody who would be more excited about what happened at Assembly Hall today and what's happening right now with the team than Jason Kennedy? Seeing Mike Woodson back, seeing kind of the family be brought back together and seeing the optimism. If you've ever spent time with him, and I only actually hung out in person with him one time. And it was extremely memorable, as I think anybody who spent time with Jason, their time with him was memorable. And so, just thinking warm thoughts about him and kind of reliving pleasant memories. As Zach said, Galen was there. A lot of people there sharing memories of a great, great Indiana fan. So we just want to send some words up his way because I think he's going to be excited looking down on this team and this program moving forward if they can succeed like we all hope that they can succeed. So But that is it. That is going to do it for us on this edition of the Assembly Call. My thanks to Coach Tonsoni and Coach Marlowe and Chad and Ryan for being here. My thanks to everybody else who was here with the chat. We wish the football Hoosiers good luck tonight. And a special shout out to my son, who has now fallen asleep listening to me talk about IU basketball, which is probably something that he'll get used to over the course of his life. You did a great job, though, hanging out with us throughout this show. So nice to have you here, bud. All right. We will talk to you on the next episode of the Assembly Call.
Take it from me, Rob Hennessy. Keep your eyes on the rim, your elbows in. Go Hoosiers.
I like everything about that.
All right. Good stuff, gentlemen.
Now you have a new way. You can get him to sleep. Just come on in, stand up at your desk, and start talking. It was each time that you went into one of your longer talks that he finally started to lay his head down.
Sure was. Oh, Dad's talking about IU basketball.
Okay. He did get a little antsy when Ryan was talking, so I don't know what to think about that.
I know. Well, don't we all?
Yeah, but those are the moments you're going to remember, Jared, 20 years from now when you were doing the show and having him on here like that. So just enjoy it. Hey, what's his name, by the way?
His name is Theodore. We call him Teddy. And he has yet to experience an Indiana win. He was born the night of the second Rutgers loss last year. And of course, we proceeded to lose every game after that. So he's still awaiting his first Indiana win. It'll come soon.
All right, guys. Well, thanks.
Let's
go football. I got to get downstairs. We're gonna throw the bonfire outside, put a TV outside, do s'mores, watch the football.
Very
game.
nice.
It's gonna be great.
Very nice. All right, let's go Hoosiers.
All right.
See you
guys.
all.
Thanks,
Talk
guys.
to you guys soon.
Jared. See you, Chad.